Rio, a regular 15-year-old, dies in a sudden accident, only to wake up in a completely new world. Everything around him is strange and unfamiliar, and when he focuses, water begins to form in his hand. All he wants is a normal, peaceful life. But before he even realizes it, he's on the path to becoming the strongest mage in the world. But before all of that begins, let's go back to the moment it all started. Rio suddenly finds himself standing in a strange white void. As he looks around, confused, a tall blonde man appears out of nowhere and says, "You're dead." Then the angel replays the moment of Rio's death, the accident that took his life. Still in shock, Rio asks if the man is God. But the man simply replies that he's more like an angel, someone who's here to send Rio to another world. Rio can hardly believe it. He's actually being Isesai'd. The angel tells him he can live however he wants in his next life. Rio, being a pretty laid-back guy, says he just wants to live a normal, peaceful life. The angel explains, "The world you're going to has magic. Only a few people can use it, but you have a natural talent for water magic. Since you want a peaceful life, you'll start in a safe house deep in the forest, stocked with enough food to last 2 months, and an invisible barrier will keep any monsters from getting near your home." Soon, Rio wakes up inside his house, located in the middle of a dense forest. He steps outside right away, eager to test his new magical abilities. Back inside, he inspects his home, a cold room with some frozen meat, an empty bath, a knife, and 2 beginner-level books on the table that explain the local monsters and plants. After that, he heads outside again and experiments with magic. He discovers he can create water just by imagining it, no chance required. Wanting a hot bath, he realizes he can only make room-temperature water. So he tries to start a fire instead. He rubs sticks together, but he doesn't have the skill or strength and he gives up. Then an idea strikes him. He can use sunlight to make fire. He creates a lens out of ice, carefully forming the water molecules, and succeeds in freezing the water. He shapes the ice into a sphere and uses it as a lens to focus sunlight, starting a fire. Now he can enjoy a hot bath at night, and he realizes he could create hot water directly by applying scientific principles to magic. The next morning, as he eats some dried meat for breakfast, Rio thinks about increasing his offensive power. He'll need it to hunt monsters once his stored food runs out. He starts by practicing shooting water balls at a tree. He hits the target on the first try, but it doesn't cause any damage. Undeterred, he tries a high-pressure water jet, but he can't generate enough force. The water barely reaches the tree. Rio feels frustrated, but then he remembers the angel's advice. The key to using magic is imagination, and he can only improve through regular practice. So, he keeps practicing until he can consistently hit the tree with a water jet. By night, he can generate hot water directly. The next day, he attempts to create ice crystals from thin air, aiming to master the icicle lance spell. Shooting an icicle is even harder than shooting water, but Rio continues practicing, combining it with his other water magic techniques. Days pass and his control over water and ice steadily improves. Eventually, he decides to venture into the forest to hunt. Exploring the beautiful forest, he gathers some herbs and prepares to call it a day. Suddenly, he notices an angry boar staring at him. Rio freezes as it charges, barely dodging at the last moment. The boar knocks over a tree and Rio braces himself to fight. He spreads a sheet of ice on the ground, making the boar slip. As it slides toward him, he conjures multiple sharp icicles in its path. The boar crashes into the icicles at full speed and is immediately killed. Rio can't believe he won. That night, he checks his book on monsters and discovers that boars are the weakest type of monster. He notices that even though the book covers beginner-level monsters, there are 2 special entries at the end. The first entry describes dragons, which are powerful enough to easily burn down entire cities, and if one spots them, he should immediately run away. The second entry is about demons, beings of unknown origin. The book only advises praying that you never encounter a demon because that means instant game over. Rio realizes that the world is vast and that he needs to grow stronger quickly. The next day, he strips off his clothes and ventures into the forest again. This time, an assassin hawk attacks him and he barely dodges its first strike. The huge bird then unleashes invisible wind slashes, and Rio realizes that this monster is far beyond his level. He retreats, creating ice blocks behind him to block the wind slashes, and fires water jets at the bird. The assassin hawk dodges everything and charges at Rio full speed, but he creates an ice wall at the last moment, stopping the attack. The bird loses one of its eyes from the collision and decides to retreat, much to Rio's relief. However, while running from the hawk, Rio loses his sense of direction. As he tries to make his way home, he suddenly discovers a glowing lake with a headless knight standing on the water's surface, alongside a headless horse. Luckily, he returns home safely and continues exploring the forest, battling stronger monsters and refining his attack magic. At night, he revisits the lake where the headless knight is waiting. Ryo finds nothing about headless riders or Dullahans in his book and wonders if it is because they are high-level monsters or not classified as monsters at all. Regardless, none of that matters because he is here to spar with it. Ryo attacks the headless knight with a sword made of ice but fails to land a single blow. He continues to take hits but blocks them all with an ice shield. Eventually, he becomes exhausted and falls to the ground, yet the headless knight does not strike him as it is actually training him. As he gets up, the headless knight approaches, holding a small crystal knife. It coats the knife in water and freezes it, turning it into a sword of ice. The knight hands the sword to Ryo, signaling that he should master this technique. Soon after, Ryo encounters the assassin hawk again. This time, it has evolved into a stronger version. The evolved hawk sends wind slashes at Ryo, who instantly creates ice walls to block them. He barely avoids being struck by the attacks, which are far more powerful than before. Ryo is forced to retreat, only able to defend against the hawk's assaults. The hawk suddenly accelerates toward him, but Ryo manages to stop the attack by stacking multiple ice shields in front of him. He tries to strike the hawk with icicles, but that fails. Then, the hawk uses a sonic attack to instantly destroy his ice shields, and Ryo realizes he is in serious trouble. But then the hawk shocks him both figuratively and literally by striking him with a thunderbolt. The monster swoops in to finish him off, but Ryo manages to draw his crystal sword and parry the attack. He even slices through the invisible wind attack sent by the bird, and when it swoops toward him again, he successfully stabs it through the chest. The hawk falls to the ground and Ryo approaches it. He realizes that although he has encountered the monster twice, they have developed a strong bond. He thanks the hawk for pushing him to grow stronger and then uses his sword to let it out peacefully. Ryo begins to head home, but to his surprise, a dragon appears. He assumes it might be his last day in this world, but the dragon unexpectedly communicates with him through telepathy. The dragon asks if he has seen a black hawk, and Ryo panics, fearing he might have killed the dragon's minion. Fortunately, the dragon remains calm and even compliments Ryo on his achievement. He also points out that the weapon Ryo is carrying is exceptionally rare. It is the sword of the Fairy King. Ryo is stunned and decides to learn more about the world from the friendly dragon, who introduces himself as Luen. They talk throughout the day, but in the evening, the dragon is called back home and tells Ryo that they might meet again someday. Meanwhile, the angel suddenly notices that he missed some details in Ryo's status. It turns out Ryo is only the second person in 10,000 years of the angel's career to have a hidden trait, and his hidden trait is called eternal youth. A few weeks later, Ryo starts craving seafood. He heads to the beach but is shocked to find a shipwreck there. He quickly spots a man near the wreck, and upon checking him closely, Ryo realizes that he is no longer alive. Suddenly, he hears a groan and his eyes light up. This is the first human he has encountered since arriving in this world. The man, named Abel, recalls flashbacks of a giant octopus monster attacking his ship during a storm, which caused him to fall into the ocean. But when he opens his eyes, Abel finds himself inside Ryo's house. Realizing that he somehow made it out alive, he immediately begins searching for the others. As he steps outside, confusion sets in. He has no idea where he is. Just then, Ryo approaches him from behind. Abel is startled because, despite being a skilled warrior, he hadn't sensed Ryo's presence at all. He's also surprised by Ryo's clothing but chooses to stay polite and not comment on it. Abel introduces himself and thanks Ryo for saving his life. Ryo explains that he only managed to save Abel, as everyone else was already dead when he arrived. Abel tells him not to worry about those people since they were smugglers. Before he can say more, his stomach growls loudly. Ryo suggests they continue the conversation over a meal and leads him back inside. While eating, Abel can't help but mention Ryo's outfit. Ryo explains that he doesn't have any other clothes or fabric to make new ones. Abel tells him to just buy some, then quickly realizes Ryo might be too poor to afford them. But Ryo eases his concern by saying that no one else lives in this area besides him. Abel then asks if Ryo hunts for food, and Ryo confirms that he does. When Abel asks if he uses a knife for that, Ryo demonstrates his water magic, explaining that he mainly hunts using magic. Abel is impressed since only about half of the world's population can use magic, and he belongs to the other half who can't. That surprises Ryo because the angel once told him that only about 20% of people possess magical abilities. Abel then asks Rio to take him to the shore because he needs to check something. On the way, Abel tells Rio to let him handle the front lines if they run into danger. Rio replies that it isn't necessary, but Abel insists he doesn't want to be the one constantly being rescued. Rio agrees to let him do as he wishes. They soon arrive at the wrecked ship, only to find that all the bodies have disappeared. Abel assumes the sea or monsters must have taken them. He thanks Rio again for saving him, saying that without his help, he would have ended up the same way. However, Abel admits he didn't find what he was looking for and now wants to regroup with his friends. The storm had pushed their ship far south, and he's unsure which direction to take. Suddenly, an idea comes to him. He asks Rio if he'd like to come along. Rio is taken aback by the offer, and Abel explains that he could use Rio's help to find his way back. In return, he promises to find Rio a job and help him live in better conditions. Rio takes a moment to think it over and ultimately decides to guide Abel back to the city.